start with our prayers. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Asato ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayedhi. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Akhandam Satchidanandam Avang Manasagocharam Atmanam Akhila Dharam Asraye Bhishta Siddhai. May we be protected, may we be nourished, may we strive with energy and vigor. May our study be enlightening and not give rise to hostility. Om peace, peace, peace. Lead us to truth and not to untruth. Lead us to enlightenment and not ignorance. Lead us to immortality and not death. Let the self-manifest Atman grow in me. Om peace, peace, peace. I take refuge in the self, the individual, the existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute, beyond the reach of words and thought, and the substratum of all, for the attainment of my cherished desire. So what we study here is Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga. As Sri Ramakrishna said, one path is Bhakti Yoga, one is Jnana Yoga. But the end result is the same. But in Bhakti Yoga, apparently it is very easy. But then we have avenues of knowledge. If that is clear, if we know what is the reason, because anything what we do, we want to know what's the reason, why we should do this, why this happens. So if knowledge is clear, then bhakti is automatic. I mean, it will come. Well, of course, one should not cultivate dry knowledge. That is why blending is wonderful. To prove this, I'll read from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, but before that, as we do, we read from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. So we'll read that, and then I will explain what is that. Yes. David.
Yes, Swami. I'm reading from The Real Nature of Man from Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga lectures. So it is with the spirit. No perfection is going to be attained. You are already free and perfect. What are these ideas of religion and God and searching for the hereafter? Why does man look for a God? Why does man in every nation, in every state of society, want a perfect ideal somewhere, either in man, in God, or elsewhere? Because that idea is within you. It was your own heart beating, and you did not know. You were mistaking it for something external. It is the God within your own self that is propelling you to seek for him, to realize him. After long searches here and there, in temples and in churches, in earths and in heavens, at last you come back, completing the circle from where you started, to your own soul, and find that he, for whom you have been seeking all over the world, for whom you have been weeping and praying in churches and temples, on whom you are looking as the mystery of all mysteries, shrouded in the clouds, is nearest of the near, is your own self, the reality of your life, body, and soul. That is your own nature. Assert it, manifest it, not to become pure. You are pure already. You are not to be perfect. You are that already. Nature is like that screen which is hiding the reality beyond. Every good thought that you think or act upon is simply tearing the veil, as it were. And the purity, the infinity, the God behind manifests itself more and more.
So now problem is already we are that, but we don't feel like. We feel like we are bound. We feel like we are miserable. And all the worries, all the tension, everything happens. Why this happens? Why this happens? This is the great question. Of course, we have gone through so many times, but again, it is our attachment to this world. What is this world? Maya matram, only it is appearance. It appears, but we are so attached with it, we hardly able to detach ourselves. Now, we know the reason. Reason is we are attached with this world. So we need to find the procedure by which we can sever this attachment. So one is, let me repeat it. We are already that, what we are seeking for. There is no doubt about it. All the Shastras, Gurus tell. And when a person realizes, that time he realizes this. And it is not that he grows two horns and a long tail. But he realizes within himself that I am he, I am that. The same truth that I am seeking, it is already here. Now we know this is our goal. And we know the procedure. What is the procedure? Detachment. Now how to do this detachment? That is the question. So Jnana Yoga has got one way, that means with the vichara, contemplation, identifying what is reality and what is not real, why somehow we have joined this too. And bhakti, it is love for God. When we have love for God, then we realize it is Him who is everywhere. But the problem is we don't get that love. If we get that love, nothing required. But knowledge is required. Why? To show that this world is temporary. This world is only seeming. That is why we need jnana. And when we know this world is temporary, last time Akshay asked the question, or someone asked the question, how to cultivate love for God. Love for God will come when we know that this world is temporary. Now, his question was a little different. That we are attracted to this world. How can we find that this world is temporary? This is that process. So, now let me conclude. We know that we are that. So many times we have discussed this. But somehow we are attached with this world. What is the goal? What is the process then? To be detached. How to be detached? By the way of deep contemplation. Finding what is real, what is not real. This is one path. Another path? Path of knowledge. Path of love. That's path of knowledge, Jnana Yoga. And what is path of love? To love God. But somehow we don't love. We love gold, we love everything else, enjoyment here. So we need to prove that this is all futile. And whatever we see, it's only seeming. We think that we can grab, but it fizzles, it slips between our fingers. We cannot grab. But what is already there, no need of grabbing also. We all the time we fail to recognize that. So Jnana Yoga helps us to separate these two different things. One is what is seeming, temporary, and what is permanent, eternal. It is not seeming, it is real, palpable all the time. Everything depends on that. This is to find out. Jnana Yoga helps us there. It's very important. We will see that when we come there, how it helps. Yes. Go ahead.
This, can you hear me, Swami?
Yes.
Okay. This is the whole history of man. Finer and finer becomes the veil. More and more of the light behind shines forth, for it is its nature to shine. It cannot be known. In vain we try to know it. Were it knowable, it would not be what it is, for it is the eternal subject. Knowledge is a limitation. Knowledge is objectifying. He is the eternal subject of everything, the eternal witness in this universe, your own self. Knowledge is, as it were, a lower step, a degeneration.
So what is that? Ourselves, we ourselves. And knowing here, this is another kind of knowledge. Knowing is becoming. Brahmavit brahmaiva bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. So, this is not knowing objects, knowing ourselves. We know ourselves more. But problem is we identify with something which we are not, like body, like mind, like all the emotions. We identify with this. But who is identifying? We have to find that. Yes.
We are that eternal subject already. How can we know it? It is the real nature of every man, and he is struggling to express it in various ways. Otherwise, why are there so many ethical codes? Where is the explanation of all ethics? One idea stands out as the center of all ethical systems, expressed in various forms, namely, doing good to others. The guiding motive of mankind should be charity towards men, charity towards all animals. But these are all various expressions of that eternal truth that I am the universe, this universe is one. Or else, what is the reason? Why should I do good to my fellow men? Why should I do good to others? What compels me? It is sympathy, the feeling of sameness everywhere. The hardest hearts feel sympathy for other beings sometimes. Even the man who gets frightened if he is told that this assumed individuality is really a delusion. That it is ignoble to try to cling to this apparent individuality. That every man will tell you that extreme self-abnegation is the center of all morality. And what is perfect self-abnegation? It means the abnegation of this apparent self, the abnegation of all selfishness. This idea of me and mine, ahamkara and mamata, is the result of past superstition. And the more this present self passes away, the more the real self becomes manifest. This is true self-abnegation, the center, the basis, the gist of all moral teaching. And whether man knows it or not, The whole world is slowly going towards it, practicing it more or less. Only, the vast majority of mankind are doing it unconsciously. Let them do it consciously. Let them make the sacrifice, knowing that this me and mine is not the real self, but only a limitation. But one glimpse of that infinite reality which is behind, but one spark of that infinite fire that is the all, represents the present man. The infinite is his true nature.
Okay. So this self-abnegation means abnegation of lower self, non-self, what we are not. Now this is the standing of Jnana Yoga. Now let us compare this with Sri Ramakrishna, what Sri Ramakrishna says. Because this is very important. Only studying Vedantasara or just academic study, that is not the reason. The purpose is to identify, to utilize that knowledge for our own benefit. How can we use this knowledge? It's wonderful knowledge. But if it is not used, then it's worthless. To understand that, let us read from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna says that is on October 22nd, 1885. Blessed indeed is the householder who performs his duties in the world at the same time cherishing love for the lotus feet of God. He is indeed a hero. He is like a man who carries a heavy load of 2 mounts on his head and at the same time watches a bridal procession. One cannot lead such a life without great spiritual power. So, spiritual power. What is that great spiritual power? Again, such a man is like the mudfish, which lives in the mud, but it is not stained by it. What is that? That detachment. Though mudfish lives in the mud, but it is detached. Further, such a householder may be compared to a waterfowl. It is constantly diving under water, yet by fluttering its wings only once, it shakes off all trace of wet. Again, fluttering means like detachment. All other stain goes away. Water, wetness, etc. goes away. But a man must practice some spiritual discipline in order to be able to lead a detached life in the world. It is necessary for him to spend some time in solitude. But problem is with us, in solitude we'll just sit and think all about the world. Now here, singing the kirtan is good. Studying scriptures, it's good. Because that supports that knowledge. So solitude, then only when we are in solitude, then our mind will directly go to the self or to God. Be it a year, 6 months, 3 months, or even 1 month. In that solitude, he should fix his mind on God and pray with a longing heart for love of God. See, love of God. What I said, that one path for detachment is knowledge. Another path is loving God. For us, see, like those who are educated a bit, what happens? Love does not come until or unless they are given some blows. Then they understand, oh, this world is temporary. The same thing could be understood by knowledge that this world is temporary. And we were studying that. So he should also say to himself There is nobody in this world who is my own. Is that happen? We all the time think that this everything, even my chair is my chair. If somebody takes my chair, then I'm angry. So this detachment will come with knowledge and of course with love, as Thakur says. Those whom I call my own are here only for 2 days. So one should think about this. There is nobody in this world who is my own. Those whom I call my own are here only for 2 days. God alone is my own. He alone is my all in all. Alas, how shall I realize him? In Chandi we see Surat and Samadhi. Surat was driven by his wife and children, but still all the time he was thinking about them, their welfare. And Samadhi, he was driven from his kingdom, but he also was thinking about his elephant, his near and dear one. So this is what is called Mahamaya. Mahamaya means, again, it is not, it is attachment. Attachment. So this attachment can go by understanding that all are temporary. Whatever we see, it is all temporary. Only thing is God who is sitting within me, who is my real self. One can live in the world after acquiring love of God. It is like breaking the jackfruit after rubbing your hands with oil. The sticky juice of the fruit will not smear them. Again, what is that? Detachment. Using oil means using some means by which we are detached from the world. The world is like water and the mind like milk. If you put milk in water, it will mix with the water. And that happens all the time with us. As soon as we are in the world, we are mixed with it. But first keep the milk in a quiet place and let it turn into curd. Then from the curd means yogurt, extract butter. That butter you may keep in water. It will not mix with the water but will float on it. So that is the after cultivating detachment, after finding this whole world is temporary, then only will have our mind fixed on God. Otherwise it will get mixed. As soon as if someone says something that hurts us, why he has said this? The whole day, maybe a few months it will continue. So it is because of our attachment for those. Even somebody, if he does not wish me, I feel bad. Why? Because I need recognition from outside. But all temporary. Some members of the Brahmo Samaj said to me, "Sir, our attitude toward the world is that of King Janaka. Like him, we want to enjoy the world in a detached spirit." I said to them, to live in the world in a detached spirit is very difficult. By merely saying so, you cannot be you cannot be a King Janaka. How much austerity Janaka practiced. So, the central theme is here detachment. How to cultivate that detachment? Now let us turn to our text. What we are studying. If you have noticed, all the things, like we have 5 senses, 5 objects of knowledge, 5 karmendriyas, organs of actions. All these are what is being said, that the space, as if It is in the space. Like Jalavat, like we read the um, we'll read the text and then we'll understand. So Jalavat Tadgata Pratibimba. Like in the water, all the water, or one single drop of water, or a big lake, both are reflected in the space. Jalavat Tadgata Pratibimba Akashavat Purvavat Abhedaha. So this is the central theme of this. Why it is required? First, to understand this world is there. What is this world? This world only have, because we have five senses, we can understand only from that standpoint. We have five senses, as we know: eyes, ears, tongue, skin, and smell. So we have already studied that. So naturally, if five senses are there, five sense objects also should be there. And we have five organs of action, and all this has come, the Pancha Prana also, and Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar, 24 cosmic principles. So whatever we see are nothing else but these 24 cosmic principles. And behind this is Prakriti. Behind this, the Prakriti, Purusha. So all the modifications, all the things that we see or hear, maybe trillions years away from us, trillion light years away from us, and this huge Brahmand, everything is nothing else but objects floating in our consciousness. Now, how to cultivate this detachment? I am conscious. The self is conscious. In that consciousness, this whole world is floating. My body idea is floating. My mind idea is floating. All the same, even body idea is in my mind, and mind idea is also in my mind. So all these ideas are floating, but these are objects. These are objects. I am not that. I am that same self person. So this is the way how to detach. In Jnana Yoga, how to detach that I am the self. That self is conscious being. I am eternally conscious, Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta Svabhava. I am eternally free. I am Nitya, I am eternal. Shuddha, I am pure. I am free. That is my real nature. All other bondage is because of my attachment. How to then separate? To this vichar, that these are not me, these are all objects of perception, and it varies. When I am sleeping, I am not aware of this whole world. When I am in deep sleep, even I am not aware of my dreams. So all these are play of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti, waking, dreaming, and dreamless state. It is all because of play of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And that is why we see this, we hear this, we taste, and all kinds of activities happen. And somehow we project ourselves in this. That is called superimposition. So that is the purpose of this study. That this whole world is nothing else but superimposition on the self. This world is being superimposed on the self. And somehow we get mixed up, like water and milk. So first we need to set the yogurt and then churn it to remove the butter, and that happens by the way of devotion, bhakti, or by way of vichar, this jnana vichar. So this way we can detach ourselves. So now let us go to the text. This is the purpose, and this is the underlying theme. Underlined theme. What is underlying theme? The process of detachment comes by understanding that this whole world is only temporary. When it comes to our senses, indriyasya indriyasyarthe raga dvesho vyavasthito. It is ordained that whenever the senses come in contact with sense objects, it is ordained that we will feel either attracted or repulsed. Raga dvesho vyavasthito. Tayorna vashamagachet. Don't come under their spell. So this is detachment. This is the purpose of this study, and that is what we are doing. So, like 112, we'll just read it and then we'll move forward. This aggregate gross body of his is called the elementary sheath, Annamaya Kosha. So we have already discussed about this Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. All these are various layers. Like I am wearing so many, say like shirt and then jacket or something, and then underneath some other garment. Similarly, we have these 5 sheaths. Within that is my real self. And that is why in Bhakti Yoga what we do? We meditate God in our heart. By that, we try to forget this body-mind complex. But here it is consciously we are analyzing that these are not real. So, food, and said to be in the waking state on account of its being the medium for the enjoyment of gross objects. We have done it, but just I am reading. Consciousness associated with the individual gross body is designated as Vishwa. So consciousness, that's all the time. So there are 3. One is called Ishvara, Ishvara, and Vishwa, Vaishwanara, and Virat. Virat and Vaishwanara. Just a minute, let me. Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha, Virat. So Ishvara is the causal who creates. Apparently we say God. God is here Shakti. Shakti means who creates, preserves and destroys. So this is Ishvara. Then Hiranyagarbha is subtle. The same principle when he is creating. So when subtle, that's called Hiranyagarbha. And Virat, Virat means whatever is manifested outside. Similarly, we have Pragya and Taijasa and Vishwa. Pragya, Taijasa and Vishwa. These are technical term is given to identify. See, this gross body in waking state, this is called Vishwa. But when I am in dreaming and also in subtle state of my mind, that's called Taijasa. And when it is causal, then it is Pragya. So this is individual, but when it is collective, it is called Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha and Virat. This we have all studied. So, consciousness associated with the individual gross body, is designated as Vishwa on account of its entering the gross body, etc., without giving up its identification with the subtle body. So subtle body also, like I'm, as of now, we are all embodied in gross body. But we have also identification or some inkling that we are subtle. And also we have some inkling that we are even causal. And ultimately we are not all these. We are turiya. So we go forward. Asyapesha ashyapi esha vyashti sthula shariram anna vikaratvad eva hetoho annamaya kosho jagraditi cha uchyate. This individual gross body of his, of the jiva, is also called the elementary sheath on account of its being a modification of food and is said to be in the waking state. Now, the food, what is this food? Whatever we eat, ahriyate ya sahar, whatever you eat, and it is digested, it is assimilated, and it transforms, and it works. See, all the energy is gained from that. So, by which this gross body is nourished, that is called ahara. Ahara means food, annamaya. Anna. Anna means whatever is that's projected outside as gross body, the same thing we take and assimilate that energy. Okay, now next, this one. Both Vishwa and Vaishwanara. What is Vishwa and Vaishwanara? Vishwa means individual. Vaishwanara is when it is collective. At that time, perceive the gross objects. So as of now, we perceive gross objects, we grab gross objects, we hear, taste, touch, all the actions, whatever is gross. Both Vishwa and Vaishwanara at the time perceive the gross objects. That is sound, touch, color, taste and smell, respectively, through the 5 sense organs, eyes, ears, etc., such as the ears, etc., controlled respectively by the presiding deities. What is presiding deity? You know, it is called in Sanskrit called Deva. Deva means Dotanavan. What is Dotanavan? Whatever shines. What shines? Principles shine. Say like this light. Light is shining. So, the scientists, they try to understand what is the principle behind it, how it is shining. So that is the Devata. Devata is not that he has also 2 hands, 2 feet and 1 head. It is just to personify, to tell youngsters how to understand and keep that knowledge with oneself. That we say, oh, Varun Devata, like water, god of water. But actually it is principles. The principle of water, principle of light, principle of magnetism. So this are controlled respectively by the presiding deities. The quarters, Dik, air, Vayu, sun, Varuna, sun. Sun means for light. And Varuna, water. And 2 Ashwins. That's for smell. They also perform the functions of speech, acceptance, grabbing, speech, I am speaking. So all these functions are happening because of, in my case, it is Vishwa, and in universal case, Vaishwanara. So these are presiding deities. Why presiding deity? Because something is happening, some work is being done. How it is being done? What is the principle behind it? So this is the principle, a name is given. So speech, acceptance, walking, excretion, and enjoyment, respectively, through the 5 organs of action, such as tongue, skin, etc. All these are already we have studied. So we have 5 sense organs of action, 5 sense objects. So these are the objects, 5 organs of action, such as tongue, etc., controlled respectively by fire, Indra. Fire means Agni, Agni Devata, Indra Devata, Vishnu Devata, Yama, and Prajapati. So to make things understandable, they have been given uh, a human form, and then you can worship him. You can invoke that. But actually, these are principles. They also experience uncertainty, determination, personality, and remembrance, respectively, through the 4 inner organs. That means mind. So mind has got sankalpa vikalpa, all the time vacillating. Is it this? Is it a book or it's a pen? Then intellect says, no, 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 it's a book. Because in my childhood I have heard, this is a book. And similarly, when swarthanuchinta, so that is mana, buddhi, chitta, and ahamkar, that gives the sense of ego. So moon, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, these are guiding principles or presiding deities. Witness such Shruti passages as whose place is the waking state? Whose place is the waking state? Who is conscious of the external world? So it is Mandukya Upanishad, it is there. That Jagriti Sthanaha Bahipragya. When we are awake, then we are conscious of outside world. So this is what is being said here. The purpose of all this is to cultivate that which is the witness, that which is the underground or background of everything. In front of it, everything is happening. That is our real self. Now, let us go to the next. Atrapi anayoho sthula veshti samashtayoho tadupahita vishwavaishwanayoho vanavrikshasya. Same thing. Here also, the individual and collective gross bodies. Individual means like me, you, and so many. And there is collective also. So individual and collective gross bodies are identical as before, like the trees and the forest, or like the quantities of water and the lake. And so are Vishwa and Vaishyanara, which are representatives, respectively, associated with those bodies, identical like the spaces enclosed by the trees and the forest. So ultimately, what is that? Space. Space enclosed in or for those things, individual or collective, individual tree or collective. So space is important. Similarly, our consciousness is important. We have to find this consciousness. Generally, we cannot see it. Where to see? So this is a process by which we can identify what is this consciousness. I am speaking. Who is speaking? I am moving my hands. Who is doing this? So in my consciousness, all these are floating. So these are not important. Important is my consciousness. So same thing is being said here. Vishwa, Vaishwanara, which are respectively associated with those bodies, identical, like the spaces enclosed by the trees and the forest, or like the reflections of the sky in the quantities of water and the lake. So either way, we have to understand, like space is enclosing, so that space is important. Or the reflections of the sky. So when water is there, reflection of sky is there. So what we see? We say, oh, you see it is now blue, water is blue. Or now it is blackish. So actually it is reflection of the space. And this identification that we can separate, that a space is separate, the water is separate, individual water and lake water. So this is the first process. Now we go to the next. Evam panchikrita panchabhutebhyah sthula prapanchopapatti. Now he explained the whole thing. Whatever we see, we have five elements. Apanchikrit means not complex, simple. But then it mixed up and then it became grossified. And then we see it. But actually it is all the time it is there. Even that quantum theory also says, when we see, then the form comes. But otherwise we do not know in what form the matter is, whether matter is or not. So this is called Panchikrita, Panchabhutebhya Sthula Prapanchopapatti. Now, this is Sthula. Before that, Sukshma was explained, subtle was explained. This is gross, subtle and causal. So now, concluded the whole thing. The Sthula, gross, subtle and also causal. So all three. Now let us combine all these. So what happens? Etesham sthula sukshma karana prapanchani prapanchapi prapanchanam api samashti reko. Now just imagine. Say I have this gross body, gross world, and this infinite world. And then I have also subtle body and subtle infinite world. And then I have causal body and all the components. Now add all these three. Similarly, when it is collective, just imagine, say like my world, your world, and everybody's world. When it is all collected, how immense it is. But it is all in consciousness. All in consciousness. So this is being said. The sum total of the gross, subtle and causal worlds makes a vast universe, as the sum total of smaller forests make a vast forest, or a collection of smaller lakes makes a vast expanse of water. Now, though it is vast, gross, subtle and causal, individual, gross, subtle, causal, collective, say individual, everybody's, and collective, gross, subtle and causal, when taken together, how huge, so many things. Say Andromeda is about 2 million years, light years away. So the light has come from there, such a great distance. And nowadays they have found 13 billion years, light years away things. That's why they conceive that it's a Big Bang theory. So such a huge world for me, for you, and for everybody. And then collective also. But all these are upahita, in consciousness. In consciousness, all these are floating. It doesn't matter how big it is. Say this whole big, huge world, but in my front, it is like a picture. You know, in our childhood, we would see, there is a lens and like bioscope. We call it bioscope. some pictures they would roll about, so the picture of the whole universe would come. So I am looking at this whole universe through the periscope. So, like this, consciousness associated with this from Vaishwanara to Ishvara. So, Vishwa, Tejasa, and all the time confused. Uh-huh. Pragya, Tejasa, and Vishwa, individual, and Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, and Virat as collective. So all this world are huge, but actually they are all reflected in consciousness. Consciousness associated with this from Vaishwanara to Ishvara is also one and the same as the space enclosed by the number of smaller trees, smaller forests, in the same as the enclosed of the big forest, of which they form part, or as the sky reflected in different smaller lakes, is the same as that reflected in the vast expanse of water which they form. So now we have generalized. Though this whole world is such a huge world, immense, there is no end of it. But all are floating in my consciousness, in your consciousness, in everybody's consciousness. So consciousness is constant. Now you see, it doesn't matter how big or small it is. It doesn't matter. What matters? That I am conscious. This consciousness is to be cultivated. Abhyam mahaprapancha tad upahita chaitanya abhyam taptaya pindavat. Now, why we get mixed up? Why we get mingled? So consciousness unassociated with any adjuncts. So these are upadhis. Upadhis means we have no connection at all. But we think that we have connection. This is called upadhi. Like someone is doctor, PhD doctor. So only he writes doctor, so he feels proud. But ultimately, what's the connection? He maybe noted some, he collected some information from here, there, and an award was given. An award was given. And what was awarded? A PhD. So he is like floating, or he is proud of that, but actually it has no bearing. So that's called upadhi. We give example. If somebody asks, where is Mr. Tom lives? Oh, you see, can you see that crow? Yes, just below that. Crow has nothing, no relationship with Tom. But what it indicates, similarly, the adjuncts are like that. Upadhis are like that. Whatsoever. So consciousness unassociated with any adjuncts whatsoever, when not discriminated, like the red hot iron ball. So what happens? Like we say, oh, no, my hand is burned by the water. Actually, it is not water. It is the heat of the water. Water is hot. Otherwise, water is not hot. But water is heated. And that heat scalds my hand. It is not the water itself. So when in presence of consciousness, all things animate. But what we understand, oh no, see, robot is moving. Robot is not moving, it is the programmer who has made the robot to move, even sensing something. So consciousness unassociated with any adjuncts, upadhis, whatsoever, when not discriminated, like the red hot iron ball from the vast universe, and the consciousness associated with it becomes the direct import of the great Vedic dictum. Now comes. You see, Tat Tvam Asi. Thou art that. Now, what is thou? What is that? And what is the relationship between us? So, this, when adjuncts come, upadhis come. So, with one upadhi, say Ishvara, the creator, has upadhi, adjunct of creation. And we individual also, we have adjuncts of created. So, the creation and created and the process of creation, these are separate. So, this way we are to segregate. Now, this will come because now we need to go to the next. The consciousness unassociated with any adjuncts whatsoever, when not discriminated like the red hot iron ball from the vast universe, and the consciousness associated with it becomes the direct import of the great Vedic dictum. All this is verily Brahman. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma here. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. So Sarvam, when we say Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, when we are seeing many, but actually Brahman means that unassociated consciousness. Unassociated consciousness. That is Brahman. But because it is reflected, as it were, in things of the world, and it animates because of that, so we say this all are God. See, like this light. Light is reflecting and illuminating. So we can say all are actually light. Without light we cannot see each other. But what we see a person, not the light. This I demonstrated many times in our class when it was here. Okay, switch off all the lights. Then we won't see each other. But what happens? We don't see light otherwise. We see human being, we see say computer, say book, etc. We don't see light. But actually we are all light. We are conscious beings. That consciousness is our real self. And all other adjuncts are, it's only temporary, it's only seeming. And because of consciousness, everything shines. Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. When that shines, everything shines. So, evam vastuni avastu aropo adhyaropaha samanyena pradarshitam. So, what is happening? That Brahman alone is shining. Brahman alone is shining. And that shine is falling on something, and we identify those things. Like light is only shining, but when it is shining on some object, we don't see light, we see only the object. So this is vastuni avastu aro. What we do, we see what is not real, and we forget to see the real. Though the reality never ceases to exist. Na sato vidyate bhava. Na bhavo vidyate sata. Whatever is sat, whatever is truth, never ceases to exist. And whatever is not real, as if, though it looks like it is existing, but it does not exist at all. Na asata bhava vidyate. Asat never exists. Whatever is not existing never exists. And whatever is existing, though it is not seen, but it exists all the time. So, evam vastuni avastu aropa adhyaropa samanyane pradarshita. Idanim Pratyagatmani. So, thus has been shown in general the process of superimposition, which is the attributing of unreality to the real. So this whole world is all the time crumbling. So we see, oh, see, the creation is being destroyed. But something, say this body will destroy. But the self never will destroy. So what happens when we mingle both? Then we think, you see, the man is dead. Man is not dead. His body disintegrated. So thus has been shown in general the process of superimposition, which is the attributing of the unreality to the real. So we attribute this body, we attribute to the reality which never ceased to exist. So this is vastuni avastu arapa. Whatever is not real, we impose, superimpose on something which is real. But that's not correct. Idanim pratyagatman atmana idam pratyagatmani idam ayam aropita or aropayati iti visheshata uchyate. Now will be considered in particular how people variously superimpose on the innermost self such ideas as I am this, I am this. So I am this, I am Chandrasekharananda, you are Vinny, and so many is like we identify. So this identification is not real. That is why to understand this, by understanding this, we can detach ourselves from body mind complex. And when we can do that, then only we can see what is truth. Otherwise, we cannot see, it's difficult. Yeah. Any question?
I had a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Like, is the Ishwar same as God?
Eh?
Is Ishwar same as God?
No, actually, one Ishvara here, who is the creator, preserver, and destroyer. Like, you are Akshay. So this, the person who is talking to me has a body. So this body mind is gross. You have a subtle form. Like when you sleep or when you are thinking. So thinking is your subtle form. But there is a causal. Causal means from there this identification has come. So this is individually. This is individually. You are gross, means sthula, shukshma and karana. Sthula, shukshma, karana. Similarly, God also, the universal form, it has also three. What are those? One is called Virat or Vaishwanara, and subtle form is Hiranyagarbha, Hiranyagarbha samavartatage agre bhutasya jatapati rekamasit. And there is a subtle. Okay, now just imagine. You are listening this talk. You'll go to sleep tonight and then you'll dream. And a time will come when you are not dreaming. So that is your causal state. But behind that is also something which is universal. That's called Turiya. We don't have any name for that. Fourth, If we give name, then it is limited. In fourth, everything is contained. So like I am now, this is a gross, but I have a subtle entity also, I have causal entity also, but in fact I am Turiya, all. As Swami said, that's the real man. Similarly, now think about the whole universe. Because we are habituated to think that we see, as I am there, you are there, Akshay is there. So when the universal form, that's one is called Virat, when it is manifested outside, gross, sthula. But it has also a Sukshma. And it has also causal, but ultimately it is the Turiya, fourth. And that fourth and my fourth is not too different, it is the same thing. So here example is given like Akasha, encompassed by Akasha. Say take individual tree or collective tree. Both are enclosed by the same Akasha. Or the water, in that water reflected sky, or in a lake reflected sky. Sky is the same. Similarly, God, when we say God, generally what we mean is the Turiya, fourth. But actually Ishvara means who is creating, preserving and destroying. So in Sanskrit what we say, Ishvara is Maya Adhisha, the controller of Maya. Ishvara sarvabhutanam riddeshe arjuna tishtati. Bhagavan said, I reside in all hearts. Ishvara sarvabhutanam riddeshe arjuna tishtati. Brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarurani maya. All are ridden on the machine, like nowadays we have simulators. So if you ride on simulator, you can fly a airplane. You are flying like this. It will look like exactly what pilots experience. In one science museum I went there. So that simulator was in moon. So that it will take up, and then cut. Then sometimes moving this way, that way. So movement also happens. So Ishvara has put us on this simulator. So we see, it is Vedanta Society of Portland. We see so many things. Beautiful sceneries. But all we are in simulators. Now come back to your question. Ishvara and God. See, in English there is no parallel word for Brahman. In Sanskrit we say Brahman. Brahman means all pervading, that reality. Or Atman, individually. But Atman and Brahman are not two, it is the same. Atman and Paramatman. But since we have identification that I am separate, and Akshay who is sitting in Delhi is separate from me. So this way, Shastraka, the scriptures, those who have written this scripture, they are to coordinate everything. So that is why concept of God means here what we take Brahman in Sanskrit, Brahman. Let us take that word. God is not real word. Brahman, Ishvara. Brahman, same Brahman, when it wants to create, then he takes the form of Ishvara, and then he creates this. You also do the same thing. When you get up in the morning, first you don't know where you are. Then you open your eyes, you try to identify, this is my room, this is my cot, Oh, this is my chair, table. So gradually you identify. Same thing happens with Ishvara. But here, what happens, the main difference is we are under ignorance. Under ignorance means we are part of ignorance. I mean, this individual. But Ishvara, we are Maya Dhin. We are under Maya, ignorance. And Ishvara is Mayadhisha, who is the controller of Maya, like magician. Magician will come and show like this, and you'll see, oh, you see, beautiful flower. But magician knows that it is not flower, it's a hand trick. So he shows this, he is Mayadhish, he is the controller of Maya. But we are the spectators, the Mayadhin. But ultimately when we will realize, then we'll find that who is supreme, Paramatman, same as Atman. So, keep on these questions in your mind. As you contemplate, gradually it will dawn onto you. So Ishvara, when he is creating, preserving and destroying. Now are these two different? No, not different. Brahman, when he is not creating, preserving and destroying, like snake, not moving. But when it is moving, it is like Shakti, Maya. So same entity, when it is in the mood of creation, that we call Ishvara. When it is not in the mood of creating or lying down Sumeru, Achal Atal Sumeruvat, then we call him Brahman. And Brahman or Paramatman and Atman are the same. As enclosed, see here Akasha is enclosing us. Similarly, Delhi is also enclosed by same Akasha. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, read Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. In Hindi, Vachanamrita. Very good. Thank you very much. We say
Thanks.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tatsat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you very much.
Pranam Maharaj.
Namaskar.
Pranam.
Namaskar. So, Kathamrita, that means Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, helped us a lot. And of course, Swamiji also. Otherwise, it's all dry discussion.